The State of Crypto is presented by Tron, connecting the world to the power of cryptocurrency.
An official from the Central Bank of Ireland is speaking out about the implementation of Europe's landmark Markets in Crypto Assets Regulation, what the kids call MiCA for short. Joining us now to discuss is CoinDesk regulatory reporter Jack Schickler. Welcome, Jack.
Hi.
Good to see you. So, Jack, what is this regulator saying about MiCA, or however you want to pronounce it? What's Ireland so upset about?
I've done some research since last time we talked about it, and I'm pretty sure it's MiCA, but more on that as I get it. So Jerry Cross from the Central Bank of Ireland. Ireland is not one of the biggest member states of the EU, but it has quite a significant financial sector. Also has quite a lot of tech companies that are based there. So it's quite an interesting member of the EU to look at as they prepare for these new laws to take effect. And what this senior central bank official has said is, MiCA introduces a new licensing regime where you can apply for a license in any EU state from the national regulator that's based there. And that gives you the right to operate across the EU and serve hundreds of millions of customers. And what Jerry Cross is saying is, what happens if you apply for one license from a national regulator and they say, no, we don't think this is a sound business model, we're not going to grant you a license, and then you just go to another country and they go, yeah, fine, we have different standards or lower standards, and we'll give you a license, no problem. So what he's calling for in this rather lengthy speech is some greater coordination between these national regulators to make sure there isn't what they call this regulatory arbitrage, where you can go to whichever country gives you the best deal and, as some regulators see it, undercuts the rules the most effectively. Because that would create a situation where it is really kind of regulatory competition and a race to the bottom in terms of standards.
Well, this country knows a lot about race to the bottom, so maybe we can export it to Europe. But I mean, are we seeing that happening? Are we seeing this? Are we seeing this kind of competition, if you will, between the regulators as crypto companies go regulatory shopping?
Well, it's a really interesting question. I mean, all regulators will tell you they're not doing that, and they want consistent high standards. But equally, one man's regulatory competition is another man's. We just do it more slickly and more kind of in a more business friendly way. Lots of these countries are trying to attract crypto companies, and whether that's cutting corners or whether that's just offering a kind of better, easier, more business friendly deal depends on your opinion. Lots of countries are coming out and saying, look, we're not going to cut corners, even if it attracts business. We're not interested in being a kind of free-for-all. But there's definitely some concern, a concern that some countries might be a bit laxer. And, if you're a big crypto company, you will say you want high standards, you want regulation, you want a fair kind of level playing field. But equally, you don't want to be competing against people who aren't following the same tough rules that you are.
Name the corner cutters. Who are the guys who always seem to try to make it easy? We'll have to wait and see. But there are definitely some people who feel that this is an industry where every company is looking for the lightest regulatory deal that they can get, and there is definitely some concern among regulators about that. That's what's going to happen.
Jack, speaking of the lightest regulatory deal, there was a study commissioned by lawmakers at the European Parliament. It was published. It was in the news yesterday, and it said that crypto assets should be treated as securities by default. What do you think the significance of this is?
Well, in theory, these EU rules are all already agreed. But there is still a lot to play for, because there's various EU agencies now have to set out exactly what rules will apply. And you could read this study as a way of encouraging them to take a kind of more coordinated approach, or take a slightly different tack than that's been previously thought of. So this won't change the text of the regulation, which is already set, and it's going to be published pretty soon in its kind of final formal form. But But this does again reflect this concern that there are loopholes in the law, and that agencies, as they implement the laws, are going to have to make sure that that's not something that can be exploited by different companies.
Jack, thank you very much for joining us this morning. That was CoinDesk regulatory reporter Jack Schickler. Don't forget to sign up for the State of Crypto newsletter on CoinDesk.com.